All right, so this is our home screen for the show because I can't switch in between like we normally do.
Okay.
Because we are streaming.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Yes.
You sure?
No. Let's do it anyway.
All right. Let's see. This.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright, and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. On this week's show, we have live here in the studio, Ian McKinlay, the creator and inventor of the Red and Black Shoe Company. And we're going to sit down and talk to him and find out where he came from and what he's doing and how he got into this whole business of creating these shoes. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Anything exciting going on outside of all this weather and stuff we've been having? We've had like 2 straight days of rain right here in the Carolinas, and it's been cold and wet and windy. And I see you got the sniffles over there.
Yeah, kind of was out in it. And this Saturday, for some reason, they did a little bit of a fundraiser for the South Carolina Humane Society, the branch where they keep the horses.
Uh-huh. And now is one of our friends that was on the air with us, is she part of that? Is it
Trish?
Trish,
Yes.
I was going to say, I saw the post on your Facebook feed, and I was like, hey, that's Trisha Dingle's place over there.
Right. And actually, for the weekend that it was, and the weather had a really good turnout, and Oscar Floyd was there, and actually, I put a lot of it on Oscar as far as doing the talk, and he's now speaking. Did a great job. I've been pushing it real hard the last little bit. I've got the Carolina International coming up, and then a couple of weeks after that, the Fork Trials, and then a few weeks after that will be the Land Rover.
Well, good for you, Mike. It sounds like you've got a whole plate full of
So the last
stuff.
little bit, because the horse going to the Carolina, I've been pushing a hard pace.
Well, good. Now, being on a hard pace, last week we talked about my wife's horse and how it had this little whomp as it was walking. Now, as you know, Dominique is back here on the property.
Right.
And you were out here shoeing all of our horses. We have Diego, which is our broodmare. We have Cayenne, which is our little snippy little pony.
She acts like you.
Yeah, a little attitude. And also, we have Diego, which is our 4-year-old gelding.
Right.
And the gelding has this whomp. I thought it was the front leg, but my wife was like, no, it's the back hind leg. The passenger side is the way I call it.
Well, all movement patterns involve all 4 legs.
Right. But it is the back seat behind the passenger. That rear leg is doing this whomp. Now, she filmed it like you're supposed to do. She set the video out to the vet, but you just happened to be by here on this past Friday, and you were able to see what was going on. Now, explain to everyone.
Well, part of the deal was, right now he is barefoot, and we intend on keeping him barefoot for a while yet. And until his workload really picks up, he matures out a little more. Now, because of the time of the year, he's grown more foot than he normally has. And with wear patterns, we've lost a little bit of room in as far as what we call balance or whatever. But anyway, we had a little medial side pressure building in the back heel and settled that down, and he should walk off just fine.
So it doesn't look anything serious. Like I'm going to have to do surgery. I'm going to have to sell the property, sell my new truck, get a third job.
You'll get a third job because the truck will stay, and the horses will stay, and you're just gonna you only work part time. You sleep at night, right?
When I can, yes.
Yeah. Well, this part time is 24 hours in a day. You're not working 24 hours a day.
Darn it! I knew I was doing something wrong.
That's it.
All right, guys, well, stick around. We got a big show to get into. We're going to talk to on the air. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video over on YouTube, and you can see us in real time here in the studio. Mike waving to me waving to Mike. And we're going to take a quick little break and bring on the air Ian McKinlay, the creator and inventor of the Black and Red Shoe Company, which is interesting. And Mike has, hold up one of the shoes here so everyone can see it in front of the camera. There you go. There's what they call a black
back side of it.
Yep.
And the front side of it,
which is the
and Ian will explain how he got to where he is with this.
All right, guys, stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
And I'll drop it
4 or 5 times. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. And if you'd like Mike to come out to your place and perform a clinic at your location or your event, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill out that little form there, and Mike will schedule you in and come out to your location, and you can meet him as well. And Mike, don't forget, on May 13th, you and I are doing a live broadcast from J&L Elite Feed Store here in our beautiful town of Marshville.
We are?
Yes, newsflash for you. We are doing it on May 13th, and that's a Saturday, so everyone come out and see us over at the J&L Elite, and we'll have more information the closer we get to that date. And over to my far inside is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. And on the phone with us and on video call with us as well, we have owner-creator Ian McKinlay from the Red and Black Shoe Company. Hi, Ian. How are you?
I'm doing just fine.
Now, tell us exactly who you are, where you came from, and how you got into this crazy world of equestrian horseshoes.
Originally out of Canada. My dad was a farmer. We had like 300 acres, but his hobby was standardbred racehorses. Back in the 60s, he had a mare that constantly popped quarter cracks. But anyway, some guy came through and patched it, and about 2 days later, it fell off. I would assume, obviously I was very young back then, but I would assume back then the only thing they had was Bondo and probably screws.
Are you talking like the Bondo, like I would patch a dent at my car?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Very hard, very brittle. So a foot's very dynamic and it wouldn't move. He had a very good friend, Dr. Harold Fagan, who was a dentist. They were talking about it. Dr. Fagan said, boy, they got better glues than that out there. So they got hooked up with 3M and they're experimenting. They weren't working that well until my dad thought maybe we need to lace these things. And he put the wires in. Back then he was using copper. And it worked fine, but the glue was incredible. It's better than the products we use now, but the glue took 12 hours to set up, so you didn't have the ability to do what we can now. It has changed completely because of the new adhesives. It was interesting. My dad, being a farmer, he lost his right hand in a corn picker. He got crushed.
You know, it seems like you hear about that. Like back in the old days, everyone was losing an arm or a leg or something on some kind of farm accident. It's just weird that you say that.
Yeah, well, it didn't handicap him, that's for sure. But he needed somebody to hold the foot, and his name got out there. And the beauty of that adhesive, you didn't need a bar shoe. If you're in the racing world, you understand quickly. In the thoroughbred world, getting away from a bar shoe was a big deal. I'd hold these feet on. I watched him do thousands. Originally, he would go to the track, like if he went down to I'm trying to think of the track that was right downtown in Toronto. But anyway, when he'd go there, those guys would literally line horses up because they knew he'd only be there a couple days.
Now, what year was this? What?
This would be, I'd say, late 60s.
Even back then, it was so primitive, the horseshoeing industry.
The adhesives, they didn't have the 3M was a structural adhesive. They had Bondo. But, they try, and they still do today. They just alter the type shoes they put on to compensate, to get the pressure off the crack. There's many ways of helping them, but to solve it, you really want to stabilize the crack. So anyway, in the 70s, I went to a little ag school, had no idea that I'd be down in the States doing this. Still, I actually had a trainer's license, a standardbred trainer's license. At Windsor Raceway in Ontario was the closest track to us. So we'd be racing down there, and some guy from Detroit had a quarter crack. And my father offered up my services. He said, well, Ian, he'll go over there.
he'll do it. I don't want to do it. He'll go over there and do that.
Well, yeah, my father, he didn't.
He's not doing anything. He's got nothing better to do.
He's just a teenage kid. Like, get him out there. Give him a job. Everyone needs a job.
You're right. I was 19.
Yeah, see, called it.
Crazy.
Your dad was a smart man.
Yeah. So when I get over there, I'll never forget it. It's John Langford, Detroit Racecourse. And I fixed this crack. Dad said, why don't you just kind of stay over there? It's because you don't patch feet. You don't walk up, look at a crack, and put them together. There's a bit of a process to it. So I was staying in Detroit. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy that patched that horse for Dad. He came into Detroit and patched 13 of them in one day. And I'm going, wow. He's never seen them. A lot of them are dead lame. You know how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
It's standardbred world. It's a tough track, very hard track. I thought, man, if this guy can pull this off, I might as well go home. It ended up, a bunch of them got infected. I'd say I had to redo 7 of them. And within that summer, your name gets known because trainers talk. It's a very confined.
So the other guy was trying to just turn and burn, and you had to go back in behind him and fix this?
That's one of the only ways of doing it there was. It was interesting because between Windsor and Detroit, I had a ton of work. And the Meadowlands just opened in New Jersey, and it was the absolute elite of harness racing.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're going to find out a little bit more how Ian McKinlay got into the Red and Black Shoe Company. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the 2017 American Eventing Championship farrier. And for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can see me waving to Mike. Hi, Mike. Are y'all untangled over there?
I'm untangled. You
can't leave you alone for 5 seconds. You get the headphones all tangled up and around your feet.
You know how kids are.
And make sure you go over to YouTube, like and subscribe to him as well. And don't forget, while you're over there, make sure that you go to equinedynamics.com. And if you have a question for Mike Stine at any time or any one of our guests that we have here in the studio, fill out that little form there and we'll send you out some magnets, some stickers, and all that stuff. Make sure you put a return address as well. And on the phone video call with us right now, we have Ian McKinlay, the owner or the creator, inventor of the Red and Black Shoe Company. Hi, Ian. How are you?
Very good.
So now, we know your background history. So tell us how we got into and how you came up with the actual Red and Black Shoe Company, and basically, when you hit the ground, how far did you have to run before you had to get it going?
Yeah, it's kind of a long process. When I ended up in New York, I ended up basically all the New York tracks. And when I came to the thoroughbred world, then things changed completely. Because anybody who shoes horses, Mike will agree with this, the thoroughbred hoof is probably the most compromised.
Yes, for sure.
Probably through breeding, the walls become very thin. So and our tendency of hoof care is to keep feet soft. I know many of those guys pack them every day with mud. Now that's a blacksmith's dream the day you shoe them, but leading up to it, you're not helping that horse at all.
No.
Those walls will roll under and everything collapses. One kid said, it looks like somebody let the air out of the tires on a car. That's how they just kind of bulge and roll under. But anyway, with the race tracks, when we get to the Meadowlands, stone dust base, Yonkers, stone dust base, almost all tracks now, even the thoroughbred tracks have a stone dust base with a powder on top. And it's brutal. It's basically like concrete. So that concussion is what causes problems. So my role until probably mid-90s, from 77 until the mid-90s, was repairing these types of issues. Quarter cracks would be about 60%. The rest would be wall separations and what they call white line disease, a seedy toe of fungus. And all those wall separations come from an abscess in the sole due to concussion, which is amplified by shoe placement. A lot of guys shoe them very tight so the horse can't rip them off. Mike will testify. There's no worse call than somebody saying, hey, my horse got a shoe off. And you got to take the time out, go replace this, because they won't put bell boots on or whatever, who knows. But when they rip the shoe off, that's why they set them short and tight. And as that foot grows out, the foot is growing forward, that heel that's set in gets sucked right onto the sole. Now, you have a standardbred racehorse running as hard as he can on a track that's like a road. It's just concussion. It's no different than you hitting your fingernail with a hammer. You get a blood clot underneath. They get the same thing, except for they keep hitting it with the hammer. And sooner or later, you have an abscess in the sole, migrates up the wall, the whole quarter comes out. So now they come with glue-on shoes. I'd say it's probably mid-90s, West Champlain from California, first one to glue them on. And most guys are gluing shoes on the same way they'd nail them on, short and tight. And now you're locking the whole bottom, the back heel of the foot's all locked in, and there's nothing. The foot can't expand to kind of dissipate concussion. It's just absorbing it right into the heel.
So
And
it can't do what the heel is supposed to do, which is almost like a shock absorber type material.
Yeah, exactly. Move sideways. Feet move. There's no doubt. They're very dynamic. And because all I did was quarter cracks, they were gluing some of these horses that were prone to quarter cracks, and almost immediately they popped them.
Mike, you had a question?
Well, I was going to say, if you're gluing direct to a rigid shoe, you probably have more concussion with that foot than one that was nailed, because at least the back of the foot can move a little bit with the nails.
You're exactly right. Absolutely. I was against glue-ons in the beginning. I had no use for them at all. And if they did set them all the way back, if you ever watched any of the videos I post, if you set them all the way back and put that glue underneath the bulb, it would be within 4 or 5 days you'd have to pull it off.
So
that's kind of how these glue-ons came about, because I wasn't a fan, but I had one guy, Bob Bodner, had a horse. He said, Ian, he can't tolerate nails. And his walls weren't that bad. I said, Bob, let me just bump them a little more, get your nails out a little farther, he'll be fine. And he wasn't. So he said, would you glue them? So I did, but originally we just put the butyl tape on, the black butyl tape. I said, well, I'll glue it, but I got to keep this stuff off the sole somehow. And butyl tape's like a glazing tape for applying onto windows to put them in.
Yes.
It's just a black sticky product. It's almost like plasticine or Play-Doh, but it's very sticky, never gets hard. So I'd put it in around the whole inside where the nails would be, just to keep the glue off the sole. And that horse was better.
So I have a question for you, and I have a two-part question. So the first part I have is when you're gluing the horse's shoe on, and I've got a sample of one of your shoes right here. This is the red and black shoe from the Red and Black Shoe Company. How long does it take for that glue to set up? And second of all, if this glue is so good and so hard, how come my wives, all the girls that get their fingernails done, they get those acrylics put on, how come they can't use the same glue for that so they don't pop off when they type on the typewriter?
Yeah, they probably actually, it's very similar. It's a methacrylic is what the adhesive is. Because a lot of women, when I glue shoes, and Mike's probably heard this too, they said it reminds me of the nail salon.
Smells like the nail. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's the same adhesive.
Oh, okay.
I went to, just a side note, because people think this stuff's dangerous. I went to a guy, I wanted to get that glue replicated because it's a little bit pricey. And one of the guys from Jersey said, well, bring it in. And when he took the cap off, he goes, oh, it's a methacrylic. He says, we don't even allow this stuff in the shop. And I said, it's that dangerous? He goes, no, the smell of it, you can't get it out of here. He says, actually, it's one of the safer glue. Crap my whole life. I shouldn't say crap. The smell of it is overwhelming, no doubt. But a lot of the girls like it. Reminds them of getting their nails done. I don't know why the nails. I'll tell you why the nails come off. It's the way they prep the fingernail.
So it's all in the prep.
It's no different than glue-on shoes or quarter cracks. If you just kind of dust them off and put it on, they don't adhere well. If you prep the hoof capsule correctly, that stuff's pretty incredible. Actually.
So once you prep the shoe, the horse's hoof for the shoe, and you put the glue on, how long does it take for it to set up? Because I've seen Mike shoe our horses, and he can only hold the horse's foot for a couple seconds at a time, if not a full minute, before the horse gets antsy and wants to put his foot down. And of course, as soon as he puts his foot down, he puts it down, takes a step to the left, takes a step to the right. How long does it take for this glue to set up? What's the work time on it?
There's two different settings on that. They got fast and slow set. I only use the fast in the a long answer, but in the wintertime, I actually heat up the shoe because heat is what really triggers that glue.
Right.
And if you have your shoe warm and if the foot's warm, you could probably be out from underneath them in possibly 2.5 minutes.
Per foot.
That wouldn't be, if you're using slow set, and the foot's cold, it can get up there. But a lot of those horses, anytime I get a horse like you're talking where they want to get, it's either the heat of the glue that's bothering them. That glue goes up to 180 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So obviously, they feel it. But there's two things I'll do. I keep the foot in motion. If you're just holding on to it like clamped on, then they think it's you. But if you're moving their foot around, you're kind of keeping them, they can't really figure out what the heck's going on. But the other thing, I'll put them in a soft shed row for the bad foot. I usually shoe the lamest foot first. As I said before, I only work on sore-footed horses. So I'll pick out the lamest one, get that shoe on, and then generally they'll stand right on it when you're done.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, you get make that one the happy spot.
Yeah.
Now, the red and black shoes, are these everyday shoes for horses, or are these for emergency care or critical care, or there's something wrong with the horse's foot? For example, my brood mare, Diego, has shoes on the front feet, but they're everyday shoes, right? Just to help.
Diego doesn't know he's a broodmare.
What's that?
Diego doesn't know he's a broodmare.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dominique, sorry. I know my wife and these horses' names. I get confused with them all. But Dominique has shoes on the front of her feet, and those are everyday shoes. Now, are these red and black shoes that you created, are these an everyday shoe, or these are for emergency situations or critical situations that you're trying to deal with, that you're trying to fix?
For your broodmare, you definitely don't need the added expense or padding, because she's just walking around in a field. I have a lot of guys that use them. Those can be nailed on. They don't have to be glued on. They'll nail them on, because the back part of that pad, the black part, is like natural rubber. As far when they say durometer, that's the hardness of it. So you can see it's where you can put your fingernail right into it.
Yeah, I can tell that the black part of the shoe is a lot more different as far as firmness than the red part.
Right.
If a bowling ball is 100 durometer, the red is 80. You need it firm, so when they do nail them, you don't lose your nails. You don't have that movement.
Right.
That's why they don't have very soft pads, because you can't keep your shoes on. So, but you need the padding in the heel. All hoof lameness, I'm sure Mike will agree with this. I'd say 95% of all hoof lameness is in the back third of the foot.
Now,
I'll go farther than that. I'll say it's you can limit it right to where the bars are.
Now, this red and black shoe that I have in my hand, this is an aluminum shoe. Are they always aluminum, or are they steel or metal or whatever alloy that you guys use for shoes as well? Are they always aluminum?
We pad steel shoes too.
Okay.
I would venture to say it's the only pre-padded steel shoe out there. I know it is. I've never seen one. And
I haven't either.
This is a process, doing these things.
All right, guys.
It's a lot of work to get them on, but they stay with them on for like 8 weeks. A horse that doesn't grow foot.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break and come right back with our very special guest, Ian McKinlay. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Ian, you okay?
Oh, yeah.
Mike, you okay?
I'm good.
Right.
I am good.
I've been doing a few more jumpers lately, Mike.
Oh, good.
That's a wild world.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Way too political.
Yeah, I prefer dealing with the event horses over that, because of some of dealing with, there's less politics and a little more, well, other than the fact they've all landed on their heads a few times, a little more sensible.
What do you want to come back with? Ian, do you have a path that you want to take here on this next segment?
It's soul pressure. In my opinion. And most people, I realize, I'll go right to it. There's a few things. There's a couple things that are going on right now. I deal with a lot of the rehab places.
Okay.
And I go at it a completely different way than when I say rehab. I'm talking like Kesmark in Kentucky or
right.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll come back and we'll set it up as far as what is the Red and Black Shoe Company doing now? What's the
I'm not looking as far as the shoes. You don't have to promote these things that hard. It's more educate these people what the hell causes hoof lameness, because most people have no clue. They really don't.
All right. So we'll talk about that. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Ian, you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Sure.
So commanding. You're so commanding, Mike. Yes, I'm
Yes.
ready. Let's get it going.
We're off and rolling.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He is now a licensed thoroughbred farrier through the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video, and you can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. And on our very special guest here in the studio on our video call is Ian McKinlay, the creator and inventor of the Red and Black Shoe Company. Hi, Ian. How are you? All right. And so now we've learned the history as far as how the Red and Black Shoe Company came to be. You're a 19-year-old kid shoeing horses because your dad made you, and the process of how the shoes glue on, and the density of the rubber that's on here and the aluminum shoe. Tell us what the Red and Black Shoe Company is doing now, presently, and what is your activities going on right now?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I made the shoes out of necessity, but there were guys that blacksmiths are kind of resistant to change, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And but my daughter got involved. I was blessed. My daughter said, why don't we rebrand these things? Because they used to be called Yasha shoes years ago, and there wasn't much enthusiasm on the guy that was making them for me. If some guy asked for shoes, it might take him 3 weeks to get them. And as Mike knows, it's a lameness issue.
Right.
The reason a lot of people use them, they feel it's lameness. I have all kinds of guys use them as preventative. I've got a lot of guys in the thoroughbred world. If they have ankles, they'll glue shoes on just because you're setting them out and setting them back. You're more into technique now, why these things work so well. If you can bring it out off the sole and set them back and support the bulbs, the whole back aspect of the foot, without padding and all the rest, because thoroughbred world really doesn't want bars or full plates, any of that stuff.
No.
Now, on the video that we're watching you at, you have a whole wall of these shoes behind you. Now,
Yes.
I'm assuming that they come with the rubber padding and everything on them, the red and black padding on them. Now, do you have a patent number on this?
Well, that's interesting because somebody had put that into the idea had been patented. I don't think it ever happened. You would think, you could, what would a patent office know? If you send them something, you say, yeah, they hold up perfect, but they really, they don't. So the idea was out there, but nobody really did it. So there's not necessarily a patent on it, but if somebody wants to get into this, jump in.
You wish,
yeah. It is not an easy process.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, if you've got a lot of time on your hand and a good work ethic, I'm assuming it takes a lot of grief and sweat to get through all this.
If it was easy, he wouldn't be the only one out there doing it.
To stay on, we've used 4 different adhesives to get these damn things to work. Because if they let loose, they're worthless. They have to stay on. Interesting. We ended up, I have, where is it here? I got a steel. These are like this is a half round, but they have full swedge for standard breds. These trotters do so well barefoot when they're racing. So now we'll take one of those wire saw, a cable saw.
Yeah.
And we can zip it right underneath, and that pad stays locked right onto the hoof. And they'll race them basically barefoot.
Yeah,
a lot of them horses that interfere, that's due to lameness, hoof lameness, they'll clean as a whistle. But all kinds of, there's multiple horses that have set world records barefoot.
Right.
So look, the main problem with putting shoes on horses is it stops the deterioration or the wear of the foot. Absolutely necessary. You see how much a steel shoe will wear in a month. Obviously, a hoof would never hold up, so they have to wear them. But this kind of changed a little bit because the guy says, well, I can nail that shoe right back on the pad that's stuck to the foot. To them, it's just they only want them off for the race, and then they have to protect the foot because stone dust is extremely abrasive.
Yeah.
So the wall that's behind you, how many different styles and shapes, and is it in the thousands?
Number one, you've got probably 4 or 5 different companies that make shoes. Yeah. And there's a lot of farriers that are very particular. I don't think they care that much when they're gluing on shoes, but when they're nailing, the way those those shoes hold nails, and the nails everything comes into play. So guys want a certain brand,
Right.
And obviously every like race plate that there's 4 different companies, like 6, 7 different sizes. Then you got your hind feet. It's endless.
What's the biggest industry that you have that wears your or requests the red and black shoe? Is it the track horses? You were saying during the break that you've been messing around with a couple hunter jumpers, and is there dressage? What's the biggest industry that you're seeing?
It's well, I'm predominantly in the thoroughbred standardbred world. I grew up in the standardbred world, but kind of migrated to thoroughbreds. I never thought they'd have problems. Not even remotely true. They're much worse footed because of the thickness of your wall and the quarter cracks. Now that they've gone to a stone dust base, it's endless amounts of I've never seen this amount of quarter cracks at Belmont Park as I have right now. But they just put in a brand new track, stone dust base, and once that material gets broke down, it's just sand on top. And because of all the horses on it, the sand breaks down, becomes powdery. Wintertime, they can't put water on, so they go to the bottom. And when it rains, forget it. They're just right to the bottom. It's like soup.
Yeah.
And they are not made for that.
Now, Mike
will attest to that. They can't handle
now,
that kind of concussion.
Mike, how many of these shoes do you have in your Winnebago out there?
In my Winnebago.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got 2 pairs that I got from Ian, and I have not put one on yet.
You haven't had a chance to use them. Well, you haven't been. Not that you haven't had a chance. You haven't put one on yet. You haven't had a chance to use it on a horse yet.
Well, I've had some that it would probably be appropriate, and some of it getting an owner to think about changing. Well, that's a whole different ball game.
And now, have you brought this up to any of the trainers or the owners? Have you said, hey, we could do this type deal? Have you showed them like the options of this shoe horse? Not to put you on the spot, because I know Ian's
sure, yeah. I see how you are.
But I mean, if I've got 3 different shoe horses, I'm like, look, I could do this, or I could do this.
Right.
I mean, do you give them those options, or you just, because of your experience, you're like, this is what's going to work the best on this horse?
Well, some of it is, the trainers do have a certain amount of say. In fact, a lot of say in what I end up doing.
Yeah.
And if I've got a horse working, why would you want to change?
I understand that. Ian, when's the last time you were up underneath a horse?
Oh, yesterday.
So you're still religiously. Well,
no, that's where I make my money.
Oh, okay.
That's what I do.
Making horseshoes is just a hobby.
The horseshoes is my daughter's world. I'm so thrilled that she wants, and I get feedback in this quarter horse world. It's unbelievable. Stuff that I don't really, I've worked on almost every breed, but I'm not in it. And those guys love it. When you watch a horse doing a quarter-mile dash, boy, they're hitting hard.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of pressure real fast.
Because they say it just dissipates shock. But what the interesting part is, I've got a couple young guys at Belmont. I ended up he was an outrider. He was they were apprenticing, and then they went to blacksmith school. And he had a horse that was crippled. And the wife called me in, his wife-to-be called me in. I glued shoes on. He had no idea. The next day he walked him out, and he asked the wife, "What'd you give this horse?" Meaning drug-wise. And
right.
She said, "No." And he says, "What do you mean? He couldn't walk yesterday." He said, "Ian came and glued on shoes." Well, I didn't realize it, but he was apprenticing under the guys that were shoeing the horse. And he walked him up and down the concrete, saddled him up, and used him that morning. And when he came off, he said, "Man, could I ride with you? I want to see what you do." Yeah, whatever you did, he wanted to know why it worked. So anyway, he rode with me for a while, and it's the same thing. Get them shoes off their sole, set them out, set them back, give them support. And now we're getting into the interesting part. I only see lame ones. Those guys, when they're limping, that's when they call me in. These guys are blacksmiths, and they'll look at feet, and I hear it over and over. They'll see a horse, say, you might help this horse quite a bit by gluing on shoes. Now, the difference between gluing and nailing is vast, because the blacksmith only has X amount of foot to work with. You can't hang a shoe out where I would glue it.
Right.
Because they'll rip them off. So we're building artificial wall. So I understand Mike, he's got 2 pair. It's a whole different time-consuming job.
Right.
Until you get very fluent with putting them on. Then it's like a piece of cake.
And the other end.
I can knock one out in 45 minutes up front. Mike's got to get out all this other crap that he usually doesn't use.
Right. It's going to throw a couple hours in the shoot. Yeah, exactly.
I understand completely once you're fluid with it. But what it's really interesting me now is these young guys that are using a lot of them. Those guys glue on much more.
So,
and they nail a bunch on, and they're saying, wow. And these trainers get on board quick.
So, Ian, you were talking about it takes a long time to do the shoe. He was out at my place the other day, like I was explaining earlier, and he was, putting his forge going, and he was banging, and he was out there, and it took him, not that it's, a long time, but he was out there for a good 3 hours between all the horses and stuff. But he was out there banging and nailing and twisting and then throwing it in the bucket of water and pulling it out and looking at it and, burning the bottom of the horse. You say it takes a long time and nailing the horses is faster. I'm going to say no. It takes a long time. I've seen Mike work, man. It takes a long time. Now, granted,
I'm slow.
But granted, yes, our horse, our broodmare does have some not problem feet, but they're a little bit more special. They're more unique than a regular horse's feet. So I know Mike.
All of them are unique, Travis.
And he likes to take care of my horses, so that's what he does. And I appreciate the time.
I heard your conversation you guys opened up. I guarantee it was in the heel. Probably the wall rolled over in the soul because Mike said he balanced her up, and then she walks up, and it's just you're getting rid of a little pressure point.
Yeah,
right.
that back leg was just doing like every third, fourth step. It would just do this little womp, and Mike.
It was just medial side heels kind of jammed up, and it took it off the rasp, and he says, "Okay, I'm good."
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
and
good.
They respond quickly. Within 2-3 steps. We had one the other day. That horse, the trainer, shoes and I mean he shoes his own and trains, and has done it for years. And he got this one a little too short, and I mean he limped to the cross tie.
Well, it's like I tell people.
I was wondering if we're going to be able. It was at late at night, no drugs. I said, boy, I hope he's tough, and he gutted it out, holding up the supposed good foot. He got through it, and then he totally loaded the bad one, and the trainer just looked at it like a dog kind of tilts their head and go, what the heck just happened? He thought the only reason you glue shoes because of nails.
All right, guys,
nothing to do with it.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break and come back with our very last segment of the show. So stick around. You'll listen to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I keep forgetting that because normally I have that channel off, so the end of the show plays.
Yeah,
so you heard the little end of the show there. Ian, you doing all right?
Oh yeah.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. Don't forget you can follow us on YouTube, and for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. And you're going to see this full-length video in all its rareness and all uncut and everything over on the YouTube channel. So if you're listening to the audio of this, you can watch the full-length video over at YouTube as well. And you can see all the stuff that goes on here in the studio, a lot of visuals happening here. And also on the video phone call that we have right now, we have creator and inventor of the Red and Black Shoe Company, Ian McKinlay. How are you?
Very good.
And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, how are you doing?
You look good. Are you comfortable now that
I'm comfortable.
You got your headphones all situated?
I'm not all tied up now.
All right. So we heard about how Red and Black Shoe Company got started. Where you are presently, what is the Red and Black Shoe Company going or looking forward to? What's your next goal here in the future?
Number one, education.
Always education.
An educated owner is by far your best client you'll ever have. And and it's shoeing, as Michael, it's all common sense. There isn't a whole lot of magic here. I have my daughter now she's set up a website. You can go to redandblacks.com to look at any kind of shoe you want. We also I have a bunch of videos on fixing quarter cracks, wall separations, detail, all that stuff. So anything I use, you can pretty well get on the website. But the key thing, we're loading this website up with application videos. How to just make it easier for, number one, for people to understand why they work and to help a blacksmith. I get a lot of guys, they say, when I do it, it's just so fumbly. He says, I've glued on thousands of these things, so it should be pretty simple. And I understand there's a little learning curve, but
now can you order the shoes and stuff from the website as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's the turnaround time if I order them today?
Very quick. We have most of them in stock. They probably go out that day, unless you're looking for a very odd shoe. Then we have to get the shoe, and then it's a like 48-hour process to get those things set.
Now, can you find any of your shoes in any brick and mortar stores, or strictly online right now?
There's a few blacksmith shops or farrier supplies. They'll send me shoes, and they keep some there just for a few clients that want them. I don't even know how many people are really aware that these are out there. In the thoroughbred industry, they all know. I mean, we've had these things on all kinds of grade 1 winners. Same thing the standardbred world. But.
So let's say Mike has a whole bunch of special shoes that he uses all the time in his truck out there. Can he send those shoes to you, and you actually put this material on the shoes that he sends you?
You could, but you wouldn't. They have to stay in the original shape. You can't pre-shape them. Or if some guys will send, like the standardbred world, they want boreum on, and boreum just makes the shoes last a long time, gives them a little more traction. So that's you couldn't do that after the pads are on. So they'll put boreum on, and then we'll pad them up for them.
Gotcha.
But as long as they don't change the shape, because, we all these things, we have like a setup to put our shoes in with the pads. They have to stay the original shape.
Mike, do you have any other questions or anything you want to ask Ian while we have his undivided attention right now?
I was just really happy that Ian was willing to come on and share some information with the world, because this guy's done a lot of neat stuff out there. I've been watching, met him, gotten to know him over the last year or so, and he is very helpful to people. If you need a hand with something, Ian will do his best to help you every way he can.
Now, I don't know if you know this or not, Ian. I think both of us have kind of like this man crush on you, because every time we talk about quarter cracks, your name comes up every time. He's like, "We'll send them to Ian. We'll send them to Ian."
Well, there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, exactly. And every time
I've probably done over 20,000 quarter cracks. I've been at it 45 years, a long time.
Yeah.
Back in the heyday, I'd have 25 horses on a list. There'd be somewhere through that process. Quarter cracks, you don't just cut them out and cover them up. Very dangerous. Now we lace them. They'll go back training. So we've had all kinds of practice at it. That's for sure.
Well, it's kind of like I always tell people, they ask how to learn how to trim a horse's foot. I just go to hit blood and then back up a little bit. It'll be all right. No,
that's horrible. That's horrible.
You learn your greatest lessons are from mistakes.
Oh yeah. Ian,
the thing we do now, which is just massive, is I taper all heels. I would never dreamed it would help horses that much, because they land heel. If they're obviously, they reach out, they look like they land flat. They probably want to land heel first.
Right.
But if they're tender. And this is, you're back in your jumping world. These jumpers that I glue are not more hunters that want that big movement. It's unbelievable how happy they get.
Yeah.
Ian, give us that website one more time.
I'm sorry?
Website.
Ian, give us all your contact information one more
redandblack.com.
Redandblack.com?
Blacks with an S.
Oh, blacks with an S. Okay. Redandblacks.com.
That's easy enough.
And you have a YouTube page, I'm assuming?
That would be in my name. We're setting all this stuff up.
So it's a work in progress.
I work with my hands. My daughter works with her mind.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, guys.
It's always good to have somebody to make us look intelligent, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys, we're going to let you get back to enjoying the rest of your horses. I'd like to thank Ian McKinlay, creator and inventor of the Red and Black Shoe Company, for joining us here this week on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. It's an absolute honor if you guys even call me in. So,
And on behalf of Mike Stine over there,
Have a good one. Thank you, Ian. Always a pleasure.
you're welcome.
Mine-
You guys have a great day.
my name is Travis saying see you next week.
All of the doggies are in the coop.
All right, we're clear. Now you can cuss us out.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, no.
Just close your eyes,
Well, we have,
little pal.
and like at the, you go to the hoof care summit, you see the same guys over and over and over. And what are there, 800,000 farriers there? How many farriers are in the country?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those farriers are from all over the place, not just in the U.S.